Well folks, welcome back to the workshop. Today we have a big Milwaukee Recip saw on for repair. This is the heavier duty M18 FSX Milwaukee Recip. The real lighter one as well. This is the heavier duty one, and it ain't cheap. Some places charge about €400 for this particular model of Recip saw, body only. So not the cheapest thing in the world. Problem with it is the tool holder. It's not there. And more so than that, the spindle that holds it is actually broken. So this has failed and he's lost it, and the tool holder is actually broken back here and up here. He's done a right bit of damage to that. Now, he did say the shoe he does still have, so I don't need to replace that, but I do need to replace the spindle itself and the whole tool holder assembly. Now, even if he had sent in the part assembly of the tool holder, probably wouldn't have mattered anyway. But even if he had tried saving it, it wouldn't really matter anyway, because more than likely when they break like that, one piece is going to get lost out of the tool holder assembly, and you can't buy the individual pieces anyway. You can only buy it as a whole kit. So regardless if it's there or not, if there's one piece missing, you still have to buy the whole kit anyway. So you need a spindle and the tool holder kit. Now, to be honest, I wasn't for fixing this. I've had this on already and I said it wasn't worth fixing, but the customer does want it fixed. It's not going to be a cheap repair. The parts aren't cheap for it, and there's a lot of work involved in taking it apart. So this would be costing about 120 or 150 euro to do this repair. But the reason I didn't want to fix it is because I don't think the motor's running very well, or at least the switch. The trigger just isn't going through all the speeds very smoothly. It's sort of juttering a wee bit. And you can hear it going up and down a little bit as you're going up through the speeds. That to me is generally a sign of a problem with the switch, and that puts me off repairing this, because you can't buy the switch, you can only buy the whole motor unit. That costs as much as the machine itself to buy that. So if that fails, this wouldn't be worth fixing. Wouldn't be happy about putting 150 euro into fixing this, and a few months later the trigger fails in it. But he wants to take the risk, so he says go ahead with this repair. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to change the tool holder and spindle on this here Milwaukee Recip saw. Now, if you like the tool repair videos, folks, make sure you also give us a wee like and a follow down below in the bottom. Right, we'll get this taken apart and see if we can get it fixed up. First thing is take the sleeve off. When you get the sleeve off, you first need to get off this lever. This is for the shoe. There we go. Just that stuff. And then we have to take the rubber sleeve off. So this should just pull off, but there's a knob on the top for the oscillation. You have to get around that. These are a torture to get off. They're always tight. That's her. Good hard pull and we'll get it out. Now we don't need to go into the motor section. Can't do anything in there anyway. As I say, one solid piece. We just need to go into the gearbox section. But just be careful of this LED. You don't want to be busting this. Disconnected though, I have to go back in here. Luckily, the gearbox is on one half on this side, so I don't have to take off the whole motor section. It's not halved in here, it's just this plate. So I might be able to do everything I need to do just from this side. This is just a wee plate for holding the shoe. The actual foot will rest against your work surface. That off. just tight. Is there something holding it? This is lifting. This side ain't. Unless it's pressed onto something here. Oh, sure, no. Can't come out when there's two screws in the way. Might help to remove them. Now it should open. There we go. It's just a black moly grease basically. It is actually moly as well. So the grease doesn't look good, but there's nothing wrong with it. So water coming in, bevel gear, driving this here crank gear here, or the big one. That's on counterweights. Counterweight then has this pin or con rod connected to here. And as this goes round, this con rod is going around like this. So it'll be pulling and pushing this here spindle. What actually holds tool holder. So what is the best way to get onto this? We want simple and easy. Something tells me it ain't going to be either. So this is a plate moving this. And this is just offsetting this here carrier. So instead of going straight back and forth, it goes for more of an elliptical movement. So the blade more goes round for a better cut. And I can just lift out. Very sticky grease in this anyway. Take that out. And take that out. I don't think I need to clean this, because it's just thick grease, all it is. Not really great for a recip saw, I don't think, because obviously it's just going to get thrown off to the side and end up getting this shaft very dry. But then again, there's also no oil seal in this, which is very cheap from Milwaukee, to be honest, especially for a €400 machine. Recip saws will generally have some sort of an oil seal to keep the grease in, a gasket or something. This is nothing. They're just relying on very, very thick, heavy grease just to stay inside so it doesn't actually leak out. Normally this will be thinner to keep the gears and the shaft all coated, and then a gasket to hold it on all in. So not the best to set up that way. Just wee guide rollers in. Yeah, very nice. Handy for me. Guide roller and a pin connecting them. And your actual shaft comes straight out. Lovely. That makes things very easy for me. Right, so the pin goes on, holds that. And this is sitting up top. It goes that way. So this is fixed. And so is this. This is like a steel bush this runs on. So there's two holes in that locate into here. So this is fixed, can't move. Same as this, but only on this end. So this pin has got onto these holes. So that's where that's sitting. Can't move back and forth, but it can rotate. And this part then for the actual lever mechanism is sitting in here. So as this goes back and forth, see the series slot is actually on a slope. As that goes back and forth, it moves this here up or down. So it'll push this down and cause this spindle to run at a bit of an angle basically. Right, fairly simple setup. I'm not even going to bother washing this out because there's nothing broken on here. Everything broke on the outside, not on here, so there's no reason to clean it out. But I might put a bit of extra grease onto it whenever we're finished. A bit of gear grease or something, a bit later than this, but it might do a better job of moving around. So these are the parts we need. This is the whole tool holder assembly, costing €30 plus the VAT. That's this long number here. The part number you need if you need to order it. Should be everything you need for the tool holder and that. And then this here is your actual spindle. This is 36 plus the VAT. And there's the number there if you're ever needing to order that. This is actually a simple enough repair. A lot easier than I thought this was going to be. Now the spindle's quite solid. You can see the damage is done. I wonder if this actually got a drop or something maybe. Because it'd be hard to break that and so on just from running the machine. Right, what I'm going to do is build this first before installing it in the tool, because it's a lot easier than trying to fit the bits when it's inside this hole here. Just don't lose anything. So you get your spring, sleeve. This is a spring clip. So it's a coil clip. Flat one that goes around to hold everything together. Your pin, never like these ones on the Milwaukee, very thin, wee square thing, and if they rust they jam up very easily. Not sure about that, boyo. And your sleeve, another sleeve, and your actual cam then for rotating it. All this has to go on here. Now, excuse me while I try to figure out how this goes together. They're hard enough to do, especially when you don't have the original one to compare. Normally you have to dismantle these things to put them back together again. It's this here that's actually throwing me. I'm familiar with the wee square pin, but never seen one with this. So that's the bottom, that's the spring, that'll be the top. And they'll go on, I think that goes on before that actually. And then this. So what's this thing for? Oh, there we go. Cool. Actually it fits into that sleeve. So that's a wee powdered metal part. Using powdered metallurgy, that's just pressed out. I think the same as the sleeve. Yeah, would be. So a wee bit of better for corrosion compared to a steel pin, but still, that still has to go in there as well. Don't understand the point of that. It would make sense if you could replace it on its own. You know, if you didn't have to buy all of this, you could just replace this instead of replacing this whole sleeve, but you can't buy these parts on their own anyway. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Might make more sense as I put it together. That's on there. That goes on next. Now which way is this? So that must go on that way. Yeah, because this is the actual cam for this little square piece. So that'll drop in this way. It goes on this way. And this little hole here, this wee slot, is for the spring. So that sits on there. And your sleeve will have to go on next. That can't be right. It must go on first. So this doesn't fit through this piece, but it sits in very nicely in there. Look. So it's actually this that goes on first. If that goes on there, now as well, that spring has to be in the right location as well. So I'm going to guess and say it's at the back of the pin. Put a little bit of grease on this because main fault is rust. So keep it all lubricated. So that goes on there, that goes on side. Then this must go on. So the sleeve has the actual cam that pushes this pin in to lock your blade. It's textured on the outside, it's got these wee ridges on it. So obviously it's not going that way, it has to turn this way, so you grip them ridges. So it's turning this way to open, which would make sense. But whenever you release, it should be letting this pin drop in. So this should be turning back the way. Which way would that be? That'll open, that'll turn back. Yeah, so this cam should be pushing this pin in. So that's a little bit too slack. Wonder if I was right the first time. And that spring should have been the other way around. Try it this way. Trial and error is the only way to figure this out. Which can be a pain because it can sometimes take a long time to do this. So that has to go on there. Fitting these is always awkward, so if it seems very easy, it's probably wrong. That feels better. So now it has the tension to pull it back here. So it was right the first time. With all this in, this top sleeve can't come off. So this just goes on top. Then your clip to hold it on. Now will this go on now, or do I have to tension this around before I drop it on? So that's going on there. This pin is hitting off this edge, so it won't drop on. There's only one pin, 2 holes. Surely I don't have to pre-tension this. There we go. Just give it a couple of wee spins and it clicks down. That's the painful bit over. Rebuilding these things can sometimes just break your heart. I know the Makita one is a torture sometimes. This ain't too bad. So this just pushes down into place. Clicks into that little slot at the bottom and stops this black sleeve from coming off. And then I don't think it really matters direction, how you put this on. Put this boy to the top. So that's going on there and the pin holds it together. Right. Hopefully this will work now, because this tool holder is actually in the way of this. Hopefully this is the right way to do it. A bit of grease on this, but don't want to flood the front. That's going to be on there. Pin's going to go through. That is going to be on there. I don't know if this will work or not, but we'll try. This might not work. Might have to disassemble that tool holder again. Just depends if I can get in here. This bush on the bottom. No, just not enough room. What a pain. Right, I don't want to take this here gear apart. To do that, I would have to take out the whole gearbox housing away from the motor and unscrew it from the other side. I don't want to start that. So we know how this goes together now, so the easiest thing to do was just disassemble it, put it back together again. I'd really be tempted to wash this out to make it easier instead of working with grease. The only benefit to it is when you end up having to do it 2 or 3 times on the same part, on the same tool, you start learning fairly quick. So at least we'll know for the next time which way to do it, and we'll definitely know how this here gets assembled. So just don't lose any pieces now. Right, get all that out of there. Fresh grease again. Forget about that for now. And forget about that for now. Just get these things on. Hoping this grease is heavy enough to hold these pins on. Put that in and put that in. Yeah, and slide that in. This is so messy. I'd rather be cleaning this thing out for this job. So that's going to sit down in there. take it out till we slide this in. That's going to sit there. And the pin connects them two up. It can't go down the whole way. So that's in. The roller's in and the pin's in. And this is only on a rubber sleeve, so it should slide on fairly easy. It sits in there. Must be fitting in here. Yeah, it's basically just a little raised up cage. Keep this spring in. And that's just sitting there. To be honest, this doesn't really seem like the best of systems for this here change mechanism. Seems robust, but that spring's just rubbing on the aluminium housing up in here. It's not the best system. But I suppose she's not doing very much. And the next thing's the knob. Hopefully that just drops in. There's a wee detent spring. Yeah, that just sits on there. So I'm going to give this a wee bit more grease. Not much, because like I say, there's no oil seal. Just enough to make sure nothing's going dry. And there's a little needle bearing over there too. I could be touching that. And I think that's it. Now you just watch the spring as you're putting the cover on. You'd have to give that a little squeeze. So these two holes aren't lining up. So these are on line and this is not. So the spring's actually pushing all this down too. It's a bit awkward. Maybe if I pull on the tool holder or the spindle, it'll actually lift this up and line it up as I'm assembling it. We're trying to push it closed. This thing's just a bit of a disaster. Everything's heavy duty, all steel parts, good heavy gearbox. All these here are all steel, but it's just a very basic design basically. Gear, counterweight, and a few pins in that holding everything together. Everything has to line up for it to close, and the pins are just sitting free. So this one here is just pushed down against the aluminium housing. Eventually that'll start wearing the aluminium. You can see it's actually pressed down there on this one. Not a good setup. Nothing's really held in. It's just a cover holding everything together. We'll see if this works. There we go. That worked. So give that a good pull or press it down so you actually lever this here back up again to get it to engage in them pins. That's why I do not like recip saws. No matter what brand, they're always awkward. But this is even more awkward. Somehow a simple design, but very awkward to reassemble. Or maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe you're meant to just take out that bottom gear as well. Right, get this back together. Now, I hope this is around the right way now, because that spindle can go either side. I hope there's nothing on this that's going to matter what way this goes on. Right, give the bench a quick wipe down and we'll get this back together again. Now, we'll do the tool holder one more time for luck. Hopefully remember how to do it again now after 5 minutes. Go on. That. Your sleeve. No, that's right, we have to turn this all the way around. Now, second time lucky. That's the tool holder. Just want to make sure this runs properly now before we put the sleeve back on. Looks good. I don't know if that's more the shape of that blade or not. sitting at an angle. I think it is just the blade. That's her. Now, like I say, this boy should still have the shoe himself. Holds the blade, runs, oscillates, and it releases the blade. That's all we need. Now, that job wasn't as difficult as I thought it was going to be, but it's also not just the easiest. It's a little bit awkward to get that closed back up again. Only consolation is it's easy to put the sleeve back on. And for me, that's the main thing that matters, because they're one of the hardest things to take on and off. At least in the Makita ones and stuff like that. Now, that's it. That's the lever to release the shoe. He can refit the shoe himself. He has it already, he says. And that's her up and running. See what I mean? I don't like that. That's why I didn't want to do this repair to begin with. That trigger is just giving it a little bit of bother. But that was explained to him. We did say, told him the price was going to be to fix it. I told him that there's not going to last anyway. But he still wanted to go ahead. It is an expensive machine, around 400 euro, like I say. Even at 150 euro to change this, it still is worth it. But just don't know how long it's going to last with a trigger like that there. Now, saying 150, I don't think this will actually cost 150. Didn't take as long to replace that as I thought it would, but so there's not going to be as much labour on this as I thought. So really, this is only going to cost about 120 euro for this here repair. For the spindle, the tool holder, and a wee touch of grease, and then just labour on top of it. That's about it. Anyway, folks, that's it. That's how you fix up your Milwaukee M18 FSX Recip saw if you ever break the spindle or the tool holder. A little bit of work and actually getting into it, and a little bit difficult to put it back together again, but not all that difficult. It's a lot easier to work on than some of the other brands out there. But quality of the tool wise, I know it's a big enough motor and it's a strong enough tool, but I wouldn't say it's worth 400 euro to be honest. But she's up and running again anyway. Anyway, thanks for watching, folks. Hope you enjoyed this wee Milwaukee repair video. Give us a wee like and a follow if you're enjoying the videos, and if there's any comments on it or questions on it, give us a wee comment as well. Cheers, thanks for watching.